Hi, and welcome to week 4 of your Healing and Strengthen the Core Postpartum Program. And assuming you've already done your pelvic floor exercises, let's get started on our backs as always for this one. Starting with a familiar exercise, we are doing our foot lifts. So we did this last week. The spine stays in a neutral curve here. We don't have to push the lower back into the floor, but we are also not going to arch the spine more than in a neutral position. So there is an engagement at the front body. The ribs are pressing the mid back into the floor. Okay, so the ribs closing, pressing the mid back into the floor. The pelvic floor lifts, the lower belly lifts. Okay, we have all of this engagement happening. Now let's release the hip flexors. They are not going to take over this movement. Okay, so if you want, maybe put a thumb in your hip flexor area so that you can feel when you lift your foot off the floor and put it down, it is not the hip flexors engaging, it is the core. And then other side. And down. And lift. And down. And lift. So there's a constant engagement in the core, should feel quite heavy already. And lift. And lift. So the engagement is just as important on the way down as it is on the way up. Lift. Feel the core working as you put that foot gently back down onto the floor as well. We are halfway. Lifting up. Lower down. And up. And up. This is 5. Gooey slow motion movements here. Really finding your mind to muscle connection. 6. And 7. No movements in the hips. No movements in your back. Last one. 8. And relax. So let your knees drop from side to side. Take some deeper breaths here. We're going to do something called a glute bridge now. A lot of you might know this if you do exercise, for example, at the gym or at home. But we're going to be very, very particular with it. So if you remember from week 1, we did these pelvic tilts where the lower rib and the hip bones comes close together and then we release. So that it's exactly that movement, but we're going to push our hips up. So take a deep breath in first and then feel the hip bones and the lower ribs coming close together. Then push the feet into the floor, engage your glutes as you roll up one vertebra at a time, up into a diagonal position here. Keeping the front body close. We don't want this to be a bridge pose, a back bend here. If you have a look, now my back is extended. I want to close the ribs, bring the hip bones and the ribs close together, so I am in a straight line here. And then we are lowering the same way we came up by putting one vertebra at a time, and at the very end there, hip bones and lower ribs together so that we can articulate the arch of the lower back as well onto the floor. Then we come back to our starting position. Okay, deep breath in. Hip bones and ribs together. push the floor, start to lift the hips, engage your glutes, keep the front body closed, find that diagonal line, and then gently roll it back down. Breath in. Exhale, engage, push, and lift. Breath in at the top, and then gently releasing back down. That was 3. We're going to do 3 more. And engage. Lift the pelvic floor, push the lower back into the floor here before you start to peel it off. So it's really getting a massage onto your mat before it gets lifted off the floor. And then, as if you are putting down a chain of pearls, gently, 1 vertebra at a time, back down to the floor, come back into your neutral spine, and then engage. Lift. Hover at the top for a breath, and articulating back down, keeping the hip bones and the lower ribs close together until the very last moment. And last one. And down. And relax. Shake the legs out however you want. And then coming up to hands and knees in your own way. This time, so we're going to stay with that tabletop position. All of this that we've talked about in the last few weeks, ribs in, belly button up, pelvic floor up. Here, your right leg is going to go straight out to the side, okay? Like a dog peeing on a fire hydrant, okay? That's the position we want to be in. And then this knee is going to come in, touch the right elbow. It's going to go all the way over to the left, touch the left elbow, and then out again, pee on a fire hydrant. And then we go, knee to right elbow, cross the body to the left, and then lift it back out. And again, touch, touch, and lift. And touch, touch, and lift. We're halfway. Touch, touch, and lift. And touch, touch, and lift. 2 more. Knee to elbow, knee across, and lift. Last one. And cross, and lift, and down. Okay, shake out your legs before we go straight to the other side. 8 on this side too. Find the stability here, close the front body, lift the leg straight up to the side. Now the knee touches the left elbow, then the right elbow, and then out. And again, touch, and cross, and lift, and touch, cross, and lift, and the touch, cross, and lift. We are halfway. We got 4, and lift, and 3, and out, 2, and out, and 1, and touch, and out, and down. Give your legs a shake out. Moving into our side plank, elbow underneath your shoulder, hips piked. If last week felt okay, you can now bring the feet a little bit further away from you so the knees are not so bent and the hips are not so piked. It will make this a bit more challenging. And then push the floor away, so we're not sinking into the shoulder. There's lots of space here between your shoulder and your ear. Left hand on your hip, and then hips off the floor. Let's hold. Try to become as long as you can, so we're not crunching in at the front here. Gentle push of the hips forward, like we did in our glute bridge, without the back bend. Okay? So there's an engagement of the glutes, and then can you lift the waist even further away from the floor for 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Lower down. Flip your way over. Other side. Stack. Find a similar length of your legs here. And then lift the hips up. Close the front body. No back bend in your side plank. And before I start to count down, just double check. Can you give the elbow a push into the floor? A little bit more so that the waistline can come up higher. Now let's count. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Slowly come down onto your belly. Continuing with our back exercises, but this time no hands on the floor before we lift. So your elbows, you can do this if you want. I'm going to bring my hands in front of me, elbows wide. It will make it a little bit harder just because there's more weight moving away from the body. If it's too hard, the arms can be back or even here by your ribs as we have been practicing. But the forehead is going to go onto the hands. And then the hands are going to be glued together and glued to the forehead. So now when I lift my torso, my hands are following. And then I come down. And then up. And then down. When you come up, feel that you're pushing the hips into the floor so that there's a little bit more space for you to come up. Okay, let's go. We're going to do 8 more. Here we go. 8 and down. 7 and down. 6, 5, hug the shoulder blades together here. 4, can you come up a little bit higher? For 3, 2, last one, up and down, hands by your ribs. Find your child's pose. Drop the head. Deep breaths. And rolling up one vertebra at a time to sit. Okay, great work for showing up for yourself 4 weeks in a row. I am very proud of you, and I will see you in my next video. Before then, if you have anything you're wondering, want to say, reach out to me, and makes me very happy to hear from you. So